This video is about a similarity in the exterior design of the 1968 Toyota Corona and the 1969 Moskvich 408. This is the so-called second series of the Moskvich 408, or in nowadays terms, it's a facelift model. It's interesting that even before the late 60s, both Toyota and Moskvich models have some common design styles. Later in the years, there are still some details that can be found on Toyota Corona and Moskvich and even on Lada. Get subscribed and let's get started. This video is going to be different than any other on the web.
DRO4CARS.com
DRO'S Way Paris 2024. Before we start, you can become the 36th subscriber of DRO4CARS in the world, so get subscribed to the channel. Still, to 1 million and above, all subscriptions places are still available. Let's make it. Do you like to see test drive reviews? Then visit DRO4CARS.com and get subscribed via PayPal on monthly basis. This helps to create more interesting content, and it also helps DRO'S Way Paris 2024. Third, you can have the DRO4CARS content ad-free on Patreon, both articles and videos. Thank you for choosing DRO4CARS.
DRO4CARS.com
DRO'S Way Paris 2024. When I saw this image of the third generation 1968 Toyota Corona pickup, my first thought was this looks like a Moskvich. Interestingly, different parts of the 1968 Corona looks like different versions of Moskvich. For example, front doors recall me of the Moskvich 408. There is similarity even in the door handles, the mirrors, and the small front triangle windows. The front end of the 1968 Corona looks like the Moskvich M2140. The wheel covers are identical on all models. The taillights of the 1968 Corona looks like an inspiration for the facelifted Lada 2101. Further details a little bit later in the show. For me it was interesting to see what's the styling of the previous models of the Toyota Corona, and I dive into the history. The very first generation Corona is called Toyota Corona, and it was in production from 1957 to 1960. 1 year earlier, in 1956, the Moskvich 402 series is released. It's very strange how both first generation Corona and the Moskvich 402 also looks identical. There is a rumor that the Corona design is based on the 1949 Ford. From another hand, it's known that the Moskvich 402 has an original design. However, the first generation Toyota Corona and the second generation Moskvich 402 also have common things in their styling. For example, the round headlights and overall curvy styling on the front hood, fenders and doors. Especially on the doors, both models have rounded windows with small triangle windows on each door. Door handles have identical styling too. At the rear end, the trunk lid looks like a common part of both models. Pay attention to the wheels, which look like are in the same tire size and wheels colors. In 1958, there is a kind of a facelift version of the Moskvich 402 that became 407. With the updated model, even the front grille style looks like that one on the first generation Toyota Corona. By the way, Toyota used the tailpipe brand for the Japanese domestic market, so you can find both names.
DRO4CARS.com
DRO'S Way Paris 2024. In 1960 is launched the second generation Toyota Corona. At the same time, Moskvich 407 is still in production till the 1965. The 1960 Toyota Corona is larger than its predecessor. The style of the front grille remains. The doors windows are square and there are rectangular small windows on all doors. From the old model remained the rounded style of the headlights and the wheels. The very first Moskvich 408 was built on August 1st, 1964. Its design looks very different than the outgoing model 407, but somehow the 1964 Moskvich 408 and the 1960 Toyota Corona have an overall common appearance. At the rear, both the 1960 Toyota Corona and the 1964 Moskvich 408 also have identical styling. Both models have vertical tail lights and the reverse lights are separated. The tail fins are very popular in car design all over the world in this period.
DRO4CARS.com.
DRO'S Paris 2024. In 1967 is introduced the Moskvich 412. The exterior of the 412 is not so different than the second series or facelifted 408 with a slightly different front grille. Later, in 1969, the 412 model has a gearbox lever placed on the floor and it has bucket seats instead of a gear stick on the steering column and a front bench. Actually, the exterior design of the fifth generation 1976 Moskvich M2140 looks more like the 1964 Toyota Corona. Although the Corona has rounded quad headlights, they are underlined by a rectangular frame. Compared to the Moskvich M2140, it has rectangular headlights and a rectangular frame that surrounds the headlights and the front grille. On the side view, both models have the same window shape. At the rear, Moskvich M2140 has kept the tail lights of its predecessor, but the chrome surrounding exists on both 1964 Corona and the 1976 M2140. Here is something more interesting.
Looking at the style of the tail lights of the 1964 Toyota Corona, they are similar to the Lada 2103 from 1972. Lada is an officially licensed model of the Fiat 124 and 125. The Fiat 124 is in production from 1966 to 1972. The next model, Fiat 125, is in production from 1967 to 1972.
Moreover, the third generation Toyota Corona has a hatchback version that's similar to the Moskvich-based model H2125, the so-called combi, which means an estate. For me, it looks like a fastback model. Also, the 1964 Toyota Corona has a coupe version. What do you think about the Toyota Corona, the Moskvich, the Ish, the Lada and the Fiat styles? Write me in the comments. Nowadays, these models are even more interesting to drive, but they are an expensive and time-consuming activity. Having so old models, they might need restoration and a special place to live. As we can see, it's not only about the brand itself, it's about the design, the style and the appearance that each car has. That's why I like the vehicles, because each of them has its specific appearance, even though some of the vehicles look identical.
DRO4CARS.com.
DRO'S Paris 2024. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Get subscribed to the channel. Make sure to visit DRO4CARS.com for more interesting content. Get subscribed via PayPal so that fast and furious to grow up the channel. The test drive videos are coming up. On Patreon, you can get the DRO4CARS content ad-free, both articles and videos. Whatever you choose to support me on DRO4CARS, you support me in the sport too. Very appreciated. The DRO'S Way is about my sports career, and to know more about it, you have to watch the video about the 2023 BMW M4 CSL. Our links are in the description box below. Thank you, I'll see you in the next video.
DRO4CARS.com.